It's time for WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to WFO Radio, NHRA podcast in general. I'm Joe Castello. If you're out there on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, welcome to the show. We're going to go WFO for about an hour or so, and we've got some great guests on the show. We have got Reverend Evan Smith going to be on this show. He is a renowned journalist and driver, and he got a shout out on our NHRA podcast with Alan Reinhardt earlier this week. We were talking about what a great clutch driver he is, and then we got to talking, and it's like, hey, why don't you come on the show here on Thursday? And so we're going to speak with Evan, talk a little bit about the brand new, just dropped Cobra Jet 1400 all-electric drag race car. How crazy is that? Evan going to be with us. Also on the show, Eric Lane, co-crew chief of the Snap-on Tools Nitro Funny Car for Cruise Pedregon. He's staying busy up there in Brownsburg, Indiana. Going to be very, very cool. We're going to catch up with Eric and see what he is doing and have a little fun. He's a friend of WFO and been everywhere, done everything. He's had great success. And so we'll speak with Eric on the show. Also, Justin Collier, who is a Pro Stock Motorcycle crew member, who is also an innovator and has actually created some things for the medical professionals out there working and having to wear the PPE and the masks, and he's actually created something. We're going to demonstrate it here on the show. So if you're out there, start a watch party. We're going to have a whole lot of fun, and we're going to get going, and it is all because of a couple of great sponsors like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure that they do. Enables you to drive a dragster for very little money and even race against your friends. Talking about Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. They are doing a special right now, 20% discount for DIY racers. And we do a podcast for them called Hidden Horsepower, just about to drop a new episode with John Kazi. And to hear these engine builders talk about how great the relationship is with Total Seal pretty much does it for me. But the bottom line is, if you're building an engine and you are spending a lot of money on whatever, intake manifold, cylinder heads, or otherwise, you better get the ring seal right, and they do it right. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Brian Massengill and the team. Listen, we were getting ready for the big Samtech.edu factory stock showdown launch down there in Gainesville. Right now, it's scheduled for June 5th through 7th when we are all back at the track, hopefully. But bottom line is the next generation of engine builders and machinists have got to come from somewhere. And you might be bummed out and you're at home and you don't know what you're going to do. But if you're a relatively young person and you're thinking about how to get the education that you need to go into the world of high-performance engine building, samtech.edu can get you started. Marvin Rodak, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. I got my Rodax coffee. I'm fired up. I got my Rodax mug. I'm fired up. And, you don't show the coffee without taking a sip. Only on Fridays, folks. Only on Fridays when we have our Friday cocktails. But Marvin is roasting great coffee, and it's gourmet stuff. Barbecue sauces, spice rubs, everything. Marvin Rodek has been tremendous. And MagicDryUS.com. Had Scott Palmer on Friday cocktails last week along with Angie Smith. Had such a great time. It was tremendous. And it is in the archive. You can go listen to the audio on the podcast archive, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can watch the video right here on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and we're streaming everywhere. Of course, I am Joe Castello. And let's get to our guest without further ado as we get going again, and then we'll get to some of the comments. He got a name drop on the show. He's a friend at the track. Like, there's all these people that you interact with and you see and you're happy to see, and he is like one of the greats. But I know him as guys carrying the camera all the time. Joining us now, Mr. Reverend Evan Smith. Evan, welcome to WFO Live. How are you?
Hey, Joe. What's cracking?
Oh, man, I'm just, we're trying to extend Tuesday into Thursday into Sunday and then do it all again. We are like, it's a horrible version of Groundhog Day. Every day, pretty much the same. What about you?
It's fighting off the boredom. I got still some writing to do for National Dragster and for Holly. I do some writing for Holly right now, which is pretty neat. So I'm staying busy with that stuff, talking a lot of drag racing with my friends, seeing some of the fun stuff on Facebook, some of the ways people are entertaining. Brian Lois is doing a great job with some of his funny videos. And obviously got some great news today. Ford dropped the info on that electric Cobra Jet.
What is up with that? Let's get into it. I want to talk about many different things with you, including trying to extract some training on clutch driving. And I'll tell you my story when we do that. But, the word is that you are one of the best, like, hot shoe, test driver. You want to go fast, you get Evan. But you're full of knowledge. But let's talk. This is brand new information. We all remember the eCopo last year and all the interesting stuff it did when it ran in the 9s. Everybody was blown away. Ford is coming out with their version now, and it is the Cobra Jet 1400, supposedly 8-second ET slips. How cool is that?
It's awesome. I made a Facebook post about it this morning and reading the comments, as expected, some positive, some negative, not a whole lot of neutral. People either love it or hate it. I love internal combustion. I don't think there's anything that quite sounds like a high revving V8, but we gotta accept technology. It's what makes the world kind of keep moving forward. And I don't ever foresee a day, at least in our lifetimes, where we don't have internal combustion. But you might have an electric car in the garage, and we're probably going to want to hop it up. So if Ford or GM with Chevy is going to do the dirty work for us, kind of call it, and show us how to go fast, why not?
Right. And that's, you can't fight technology. There was the guy, he had the best buggy whip in the world. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing our thoroughbred race engines to a buggy whip because it's its own unique thing. There's all kinds of hobbies built around it. So I really think that drag racing in many ways is going to be insulated. But there are people who want to play with electric cars. They think they're neat. These Tesla people are nuts. I do street drags at Homestead Miami Speedway, and these 19-year-old girls are there, and they're like, they know about dual motor, and I'm like, yeah, dual motor, and I don't know what the heck they're talking about because I'm a fuel and gas kind of guy, but this is the way of the world. So Ford is getting in on it, and that is great.
Yeah, there was a guy on Drag Week, talked to Kevin McKenna, he boasts about it, guy going 1040s or 1060s with a Tesla. Our buddy in the industry, Mark Gerhardt, has been doing a lot of road race type stuff and some drag racing with his Tesla. So the potential for performance is there. It's really, to me, about can you live without the sound of that engine, the interaction, the tuning of the engine per se, if that's something that you're into. Not that you can't tune electric motors, because certainly you can. But there's a line in the sand there between the two types of technologies as to what people like or don't like. And that's okay.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen it before. We see it in Top Alcohol Dragster when the nitro cars came in. There's a rivalry. I like it. If it was up to me, and I understand why, but I'd find a spot in Competition Eliminator for electrics. I would put them out on the track with and against the internal combustion cars and figure it out. And if eventually they have some sort of amazing advantage or something, we'd figure it out. But I'd like to entertain a few of those cars. It's never going to be that many. I think electrics are ultimately going to be what you used to go to the grocery store. You go over there, you go to the mall with the electric car. When you have a performance car, you'll probably still want your gasoline engine. But who knows? What do I know?
No doubt about it. I agree. There's room for everything.
There's room for everything. So you got some people checking in. We got Lori is out there. She's saying a shout out to Evan, and Diane Bender-Smith is out there saying what's up to Evan. He is the best driver ever. Let's talk about that, Evan. Okay, now a lot of people agree. In road course racing, we just saw Ford versus Ferrari. I want to ask you about that. But, they picked a guy who was going to be the guy, Ken Miles, going to be the guy that got him the goal. He's the goal. And I've heard your name dropped as the guy when it comes to drag racing, especially with a clutch. So tell us about your... is that true? And how'd you get that label?
I don't really know if it's true, but so a lot of things came into place. In college, I had my 5-liter Mustang. Couldn't really afford to break the car, but loved to go fast. So I really worked on learning how to drive, how to get out of the hole, how to power shift with a street car and get the most out of the car, kind of in the spirit of Stock Eliminator, getting the most out of my driving and out of the car and fine tuning and refining without having to put slicks on the car, because that was kind of a guarantee that you're going to break the transmission and or the axles, which I couldn't afford to do because I needed my car to get back and forth to school. I was working at Raceway Park at Englishtown at the time, and I couldn't afford it because I was a poor college student, so I wouldn't have been able to really afford to fix the thing if I broke it. So, you know, and I guess to a degree, I guess I have a little bit of a knack for it, and I refined it over the years. And then getting the job at the magazine at Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords, and then having access to the track and access to just testing and driving and constantly driving cars and testing cars, I got just enough, you know, over and over and over again, seat time and practice, and just refined the craft of, you know, launching and shifting with street tires, which is completely different than driving a stock eliminator car with a stick shift or a super stocker, where, you know, the car does most of the work. Yeah, you got to be good as far as shifting on time and things like that. But rowing a vertigate back and forth is quite a lot different than, you know, you being the traction control, letting the clutch out properly, and then hitting all the gears in an H pattern with a synchronized transmission is a completely different thing when compared to driving, you know, a modern stick shift transmission.
All right, well, let's watch you in action. In car, okay. It's a little old school in terms of the video footage, but I think it's going to work. So walk us through what we're seeing here. When was this 1993 SVT Cobra clone Mustang?
Right, so this is in car in my stock eliminator car. This is at Go Raceway in New Jersey,
right by Bob Fry's house.
Yep, people will recognize it. A whopping 3 megapixel video. So the footage and the audio isn't great, but so this is a stock eliminator car with vertigate. So I just went from first to third there, getting the tires wet, do a burnout, third. This is on my YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, this is right off your YouTube, baby.
Yep, so check to make sure the water pump is on in the fan. Put it back into first gear. This was during what we ran up there as junior stock. We had a Pro Tree heads-up class at the National Opens.
How high are you bringing it up?
11-pound weight break.
Yeah.
Now I look over Jr. And there you go. I think that was about a 1080 run right there, about 120.
That was tremendous. How about it? You could hear the gear winding down. And that's why I love stock eliminators so much. I'm a bracket guy. I let go of a button, the car launches, and I like the ride, don't get me wrong, but now I got an air shifter. I'm trying to run exactly the same time. What you're doing in there, winding up the engine, snatching loose the clutch, going through the gears in the air. In the air, you don't know where you're going. Hopefully you're going straight. Like that is, it takes courage, and there's a whole level of skill there that just... It separates the men from the boys, so to speak.
I think a lot of times I've told myself I was not so smart for running that combination, but it was a lot of fun to drive.
Oh, really? My friend Doug Parlamento out there, I remember Evan from my Steeda racing days. Doug has been a big help to me over the years. He's a West Palm Beach guy, and he remembers you. No, you got a whole crew out there following.
Oh, wow, I haven't heard that name in a while. Hey, Doug.
Oh, you know Doug?
Oh, sure.
I hear Doug is an excellent driver as well, like very capable. I know him as a bracket racer, so, letting go of the button and running the top end and everything. But I've been crazy sideways in a Corvette a couple of times with Doug. The rest of the story I can't say. But, out in Miami, those kind of things. But it's
I think he was sponsored by Steeda for a while, back in the Fun Ford days.
Yeah, Steeda was a big name. That was an era, right? Like when the Mustang was really the only performance car. because the Camaros and the Firebirds, mid-'80s, they were too heavy and underpowered. Everybody had the 5.0 Fox body Mustang that I knew. Working at Miami Hollywood, it was like hundreds of them, just nonstop.
I grew up on GM cars from a GM family, but couldn't resist the lure of the 5-liter Mustang. It was lighter, it was cheaper, had the V8 in the stick, and I was sold. Ended up getting one.
He says, good to see you on here, and for me, some things better left untold, and I agree. That is true. So that was it? You grew up a GM guy? Because I've always kind of known you as a Ford guy. It was that Mustang that pulled you over.
That was it, man. The order goes like this: 71 GTO, 404 speed.
All right.
269 Firebirds, a 71 Camaro, and then the Mustang.
So really, you're a Pontiac guy. Like
I love Pontiacs.
Right?
I do.
That's my brand, if I have a brand anymore. We got a 78 sitting in the garage. Little work needs to be done. The listeners are annoyed by hearing that I'm not in there working on it right now instead of talking to all of everybody. But it's unfortunate. It's gone. Like Pontiac. Ugh, very sad.
Yep, nothing but Mustangs for me now. But that doesn't rule out that I might own one in the future. I would. My dream car, as far as old muscle cars, is probably a 65 GTO, but I might need more space for that. We got other projects that have to be finished first.
Now, everyone can tell that you're from the Northeast, but you now live in Florida, so you made the decision to come get warm.
Yep. When I worked at the magazine, a whole bunch of us moved down here. They closed our New Jersey office, and about 6 of us kept our jobs and moved down to Tampa, Florida. And I love it down here now.
Yeah. It's
no snow.
No snow. Simple as that. Hey, Jill's out there. Wants to know what happened to the GTO. Is that a loaded question or is it a real question?
That is a loaded question because on the way to get pie, the story goes that a deer ran out in front of me.
Ah, okay. Is that one of those stories better left untold as well, perhaps?
Well, my dad could be watching, so.
That's good. That's good. What's this guy? We don't know his name, but he says, I got a haul new GT500 so Evan could play at Bradenton. Oh, there you go. I like it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. All right, so before we go too far away from the electric Mustang, I do want to show this great sizzle video that they put out and get your take because the lack of sound is a big part of it, but kind of interesting that they drop it now, right? We're all bored. Nobody's got anything to do. We're kind of trapped, and they give us a little something to talk about. I think it could be kind of an interesting marketing move. 17 seconds from Ford. And simple as that. I think it works. For 17 seconds, they got me interested.
Yep, that's a sizzle reel. If ever there was a sizzle reel, that's it right there.
Yeah, exactly. Did a good job with it. All right, so let's talk clutch driving. Teach us. How do you do it?
Oh, man. So we're talking like street cars or race cars?
Well, I guess I would both. First of all, let me give you my background in that, my dad's from Jersey and was a hot rodder, and he had 2 GTOs and a 68 Ram Air clutch car. But then, got married. I came around, and there were no clutch cars anymore. And so I grew up my whole life hearing about my dad being, was an ace with a clutch and how much fun they are and how much more connected you are in this great experience, except my mom can't drive a stick, and so we just never had one. She needs to be able to, sorry, Ma, but it's a fact. But anyway, into my 30s, or late 20s, I couldn't drive a clutch car just because there wasn't one available to even try. Just wasn't around. Nobody I knew had one. Nobody had one. So finally, this became a problem, and a good friend of mine, Boca Bryan, let me drive his 4-cylinder convertible Mustang, and I got some reps on it. I did the Justin Bell GT Driving Experience School with exactly 5 hours of practice on it, and I fell in love with it, and now both the cars I have are clutch cars. I got a CTS V with a 6-speed Tremec, and I've got a Firebird with like the base 5-speed manual, and I love it. But just like trying to learn anything when you're older, if I was younger, I would have learned better. Let's put it that way. So there's a lot of people that have never had exposure to a clutch car. So give us your, some of your theories, some of the best practices as best as you can with a little hint on the drag racing.
Okay. So I think I was probably 14 or 15, and my dad said, come on, we're going out driving. And we had, of all things, we had this little Toyota station wagon with a 4-speed. And I didn't know what we were doing. It was a Sunday. We went to a closed business into the big parking lot in the back in central New Jersey. I say central New Jersey because that is an actual place in my book. And we swapped places. He put me behind the wheel, and despite some, I'm not going to say screaming and yelling, but let's say I tried to be a quick learner. And after a few times doing that, he put me on a hill with the car and said, hold the car without using the brake. So you're working the clutch, working the gas, letting it roll back a little bit, going up and down, which is one of the hardest things to do if you're learning how to drive a stick. It can be very intimidating when you come up to a hill and have to stop and start on a hill. So that was like my introduction to stick shift, was learning just the basics of letting the clutch out. And that probably kind of like built the foundation for me being able to drive. And then when he would be at work, because he commuted to the city, and I got my learner's permit, which you're supposed to be out with an adult. So, of course, there was a 17-year-old friend of mine, and we used to take the car out and practice. And then I got my GTO and got the Mustang and took the Mustang to the track. I'll skip all the GTO stuff because I've probably gotten a little trouble with that with him. At first, he really didn't want me to go to the track with it. I think more because he didn't want me to break it, not because he was afraid of racing, because he knew I didn't have any money to spend on it. But like I said in the beginning, I just practiced a lot with the Mustang. And, one of the things I learned was with a race car, with a stick shift, when you dump the clutch, one of the first things that happens is the tire, if you have a bias ply tire, the tire absorbs that initial hit. So the tire wraps up. That's that big wrap that you see in the tire on a drag launch. And then the suspension works, if you got a good working car, to kind of slingshot the car away, a little bit of wheel speed. And depending on whether you have an adjustable clutch, you're tuning your clutch. With a street car, generally, especially today's street cars, you have a very short sidewall tire that has no give in terms of the wheel wrapping up the tire. So you are the traction control. The way you let the clutch out in coordinating that with the car transferring weight and you applying the power is all you have to get the car to hook. So engine up a little bit as far as RPM. You don't want to be at a dead idle. And then it seems like I tend to let the clutch out quite quickly when I first go to let it out to get the body of the car transferring weight. And then really it's a matter of feel of as quickly and smoothly as you can apply power and get the clutch out and keep the tires hooked is going to give you the best 60-foot and the best launch. Now, of course, you need to do a good burnout. You need to understand the track you're on. You need to understand the power level you're dealing with, the type of tire you're on. You got to be able to take all those things into consideration, and then just go and practice. Thankfully, we have a lot of drag strips, so you can look at your 60-foot times. I tend to shift with my right foot planted to the firewall and just tap the clutch and shift. That takes a little bit of practice and some confidence to be able to do that. And you want as little bit of RPM flash as possible. And that's really it. It's not an easy thing to do. I still mess up every once in a while, but when you hit all 3 gears in a 4-speed, it's quite satisfying. And I love being directly connected to the acceleration process.
He has had over 20 factory production car quarter-mile records, including the 2020 Shelby GT 500, 1061, multi-time national record holder and stock eliminator, 18-time NHRA class winner. Will take it from you. Now, I'm always worried about, like, or as you described, we have parking garages here, right? Up and down the parking garage. When you're stuck in a traffic jam in a parking garage, you got to be able to do it. I can hold the car there, no problem, but working that clutch, I always wonder... am I damaging it? Is this exactly how should I avoid being in that position? Using the clutch, overusing the clutch, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm paranoid about that because I don't want to have to take my stuff apart prematurely because that'll take a long time.
Great question. So on the street, clutches are pretty robust. You got to build a lot of heat to really hurt a modern clutch, especially a production level clutch. They're really tolerable. They'll really tolerate a lot of abuse. As far as drag racing goes, like taking your your Cadillac CTS-V to the track, there's two completely different schools of thought on how to launch a stick car. Your car, I think, from the factory, doesn't have the greatest half shafts.
No,
they tend to break,
and huge wheel hop problems too. Tremendous wheel hop problems.
So, exactly. So, Plan A is, but your car also has a lot of torque. So you can launch at a very low RPM, just kind of trade feet smoothly and get the gas planted. And if you do everything smoothly, you can avoid wheel hop. It's those abrupt inputs, people will tend to, as soon as they feel the car moving, they get itchy and come off the clutch too fast. So that will tend to lead to wheel hop. That's a huge mistake that people make. You got to be smooth throughout the whole transition. That's what I try to tell people. So low RPM, get the clutch out fast. The other school of thought is if you have the feel for it and you don't mind putting a little extra wear on the clutch, higher RPM launch and feather the clutch out. So you're keeping the engine a little more in the power band, but you've got to really have a good seat of the pants feel for what the tire's doing as you let the clutch out. And then you don't want to ride the clutch too much because you can burn it up. And then you got to be able to recognize when that's happening so you can get the clutch out maybe a little quicker or maybe not do that on the next run.
And what's the worst thing that you can do? Like avoid this at all costs with clutch driving?
Overriding. Do the burnout, obviously, short and sweet. Get up to the line. Keep your foot on the floor as far as the clutch so that you keep an air circulating. You don't want to be just dragging the clutch the whole time. And then absolute no-no would be just people just slipping the heck out of the clutch to the point where, like, you see smoke pouring out of the bell housing and they just don't even know that it's happening. And I've even seen where people have slipped it so bad that they'll then floor it and the clutch is slipping so bad that the engine is basically banging off the rev limiter. And that can actually feel like tire spin because you think it's slipping. The engine's banging off the rev limiter. You think the tires are spinning, but you're really just melting the clutch out of it.
Got it. Don't melt the clutch out of it.
Bad. It could also be really bad for your feet if the thing explodes.
Yeah. That would be something to avoid as well. All you kids at home, avoid that. But I really appreciate that was a great lesson. Now tell me about the YouTube channel and tell us the details. We've got the fact that you have a YouTube channel up there, but this is something you've dived into, and you're creating videos, and you're test driving all these amazing cars. And of course, why wouldn't you have a YouTube channel? I've watched you playing your video game. Like everybody else is, making laps around Nürburgring and such. So tell us a little bit about the YouTube channel and where we can go to watch your follies.
Cool. So the YouTube channel is Revin Evan, pretty easy, REVAN, which obviously is a play on my name. I think Ron Moorhead, super stock racer up in Division 1, when I raced up there, started calling me Revin Evan because I had the X pipe on the stocker and it sounds really loud. So he kind of gave me that name. So I thought it'd be a cool name for the channel. And we just do all kinds of car stuff, even non-Ford stuff. We do everything car related. I'm really just in the process of growing the channel, seeing what works. and I'm just passionate about cars. So if I can share my passion and the videos, I get a lot of feedback from a lot of my friends, tend to give me some ideas and help me out with, all kinds of stuff, shooting the videos. My buddy Abe has been, instrumental.
I know
Yep,
Abe.
you met Abe.
Abe's
Abe's instrumental in helping out with the videos. We bought a 88 Fox body, a little stock Mustang that we're going to build up on the channel as soon as this Coronacation is over with. There's a fun ride right there.
Yeah, I had you send me these pictures, and I failed to put them all up. That is, you're 45 degrees. I think you're coming down on that one. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was during the testing of the 2014 Cobra Jet. It spun the first 2 runs. I had no idea. I just figured it was going to spin again. And when I let it go, it went up and up. And I think I rode it out like 300 feet. It dragged, scraped the bumper. That was on the way up because the whole back of the bumper was toast. And the Ford engineers, I don't know that they've ever seen that before. And they certainly never made a car do that before. At least I don't think they did. And their jaws were hanging from that run. I tried to play it cool, but I wouldn't say I was crapping a bucket, but it caught me. Caught my attention.
Got to keep going. You can't snap off the gas at that point.
No,
what about this one?
Baby.
Is this the car we just took a ride in?
Yes.
That's awesome. That is
great. 302 5-speed, the G-Force transmission. Pretty simple combo. A lot of fun.
Evan, thank you very much for joining us on WFO Radio Live. Really appreciate everything you do, making it a more fun experience out there at the NHRA to be able to break away, learn a little bit. Thank you for educating us. We've extracted a little bit of knowledge. I appreciate that. Can't wait to go drive around the neighborhood. And I encourage everybody to get out there and hit your channel and subscribe and watch what they do. And ours too, by the way. Our YouTube channel, WFO Radio TV, lied dormant for many years. Like, what do I do with this, right? And now we're doing this with it. So they say click the bell, and that way you'll get a notification whenever Evan puts up a new video. Evan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe. I hope I'll see you in Gainesville in a couple of weeks or a month or so.
Yes, sooner the better. But yes, I'm excited to be back out there and get back to doing what we really love, which is racing and being around race cars. So thank you so much, Evan.
All right, man. Thank you.
There he goes. Evan Smith, Reverend Evan. Subscribe to the channel. Great stuff. We really appreciate him coming on. And, I guess I'm not that bad a stick shift driver. Like everything that he said, it's like, all right, I figure that works. I can do that.
This is WFO Radio.
I love WFO Radio. Oh, yeah.
The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
You're working in the shop, you've got spills, you've spilled oil, it's everywhere. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do, but that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go to magicdryus.com and order the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, Magic Dry. It's lighter, it absorbs more, it's better for the environment. It's made out of coconut. It's made in America. magicdryus.com. They've got spill kits that include everything you need for a regular, normal household spill, all the way up to a large industrial spill. We always say, if you've got a cat, get Cat Spot. If you've got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you've got a spill, call Magic Dry. That's magicdryus.com. Hey, engine builders, Total Seal piston rings are the leader in ring seal technology, and they go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you might have. Customer service, top notch. Made in America? Absolutely. They're located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they've got everything it takes to develop the world's best piston rings. Give them a call at 800-874-2753 or go to TotalSeal.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
Hey everybody, how do you start your day? You started off with a little coffee. And do you want something cheap and vacuum-packed with garbage? Do you want to pay for a retail coffee? It's like $11. Or do you want something that is good, like RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com? Join the Roadax Army. WFO users and listeners know all about it. Over 40 grades to choose from. This is roasted fresh per your order, not to mention hot sauce, spice rub. You got to call Marvin, get on the phone line, or go to the website, RoadaxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Check it out. That's RoadaxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Attention adrenaline junkies, Frank Hawley's Dragster Adventure is calling you. Rides available for the 2020 season. Go to frankhawley.com. They're coming to a track near you. It makes a great gift, whether it be licensing for super comp, super gas, all the way up to top alcohol. They can do it. But if you're a drag racing fan and you've always imagined what it might be like to drive a dragster, to accelerate 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and run 10s in the quarter mile, give them a call. 866-480-7223, frankhawley.com, the Dragster Adventure, and tell them you heard it on WFO.
Hey, WFO Universe. Want to hear your favorite interviews before anyone else? I'm talking VIP access. Want to get right to the interviews? Go to patreon.com/WFO radio. You get special VIP content, early access to interviews, and get straight to the interviews on patreon.com/WFO radio. That's patreon.com/WFO radio. Become a patron. Become a WFO VIP. Do it now.
This is WFO Radio.